Here's another laptop you can't buy. This is the Lenovo Thinkbook 14 Plus. You can buy it, but you have to import it. It's not available in Canada or the United States. I ordered this from AliExpress off of a reseller, brought it in, and then fell in love with it, and I've been using it for 2 months basically as a daily driver. This is a truly, truly outstanding laptop. To start the video, before I even get into it, Lenovo, you need to bring this laptop to the West because this thing is an absolute killer. 14-inch laptop, relatively thin, not crazy thin. It's actually thick enough that it can actually accommodate quite good cooling in this here. It does come with an Intel model. This is the AMD model here. Has a gorgeous screen. This is going to be a 3K screen, 120 Hz refresh rate, 100% DCI-P, and it's nice and bright. This is a killer screen, pretty much as good as you can expect from a non-OLED screen. All metal chassis, gorgeous keyboard, great trackpad, dual NVMe inside, lots of RAM on this model here. It's truly fantastic. Let me show you why this laptop has been my daily driver for the past 2 months. Unfortunately, you just can't buy it though. Okay, and here is the laptop. Thinkbook 14 Plus. Lovely laptop. I've been using it as a daily driver for, I think, about 2 months now. You can see there's like fingerprints on it. Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to be very well versed in this product. It's not like a first look. Some of the footage I filmed was when I first got it, doing comparisons and that, but I've actually legitimately been using this as a daily driver for 2 months, or whatever, month and a half it's probably been. Ports here are fantastic. You get that's the charging port. It's also a 10 gigabyte per second, so 1,000 megabytes a second when transfers. USB-A, HDMI out. That's a USB 4, and it's a full function USB 4. You can power a screen off of it. You can do all that. 40 gigabyte per second, so you'll get transfers on like a NVMe enclosure of 3,500, 3,700 megabytes per second. Headphone, microphone combo jack. Right side, you get a little, I don't know what you call this thing, like a little hidden passageway with a USB-A in there, and you can pop in your dongle in there, which I do. I just took it out for now. You also get a micro SD card, which I've used for video editing. You get another USB-A and an Ethernet port and a Kensington lock slot. Fantastic for a little 14-inch non-gaming notebook here. Looks really, really nice, all metal here. We'll bring it in, take a look at the weight. I'll cut to some footage of me comparing to the 16-inch variant of this, and I'll get an idea of that. But you can see here, it's not super heavy. 1.57 grams, 1,571 grams. That's about 3.2, 3.3 pounds. It's not super, super, super light, but this is an all-metal chassis, and it's very robust. It's not exactly thick. It's not the thinnest, like, some impossibly thin MacBook Air, because this thing has some serious, serious cooling and components inside. But it is, it's all metal, so it's going to be a little bit heavier than you might expect from, a little plastic variant of this. Sometimes these things can be plastic, basically. But this is a fantastic, fantastic laptop. Again, I've been using it as a daily driver. I kind of got it to just do a review, and then I was pretty much blown away by it. So that's how these things happen, right? You start to do a review, and then you're like, well, I guess I'm using that for the next month and a half to 2 months. M.2 slot, M.2 slot. That has a little tiny heatsink on it. You can see that there. Spoiler alert, there's 2 M.2 slots in this little 14-inch laptop. 2280 size there. 2280 size there. 2280 size there, but they put in a 2242. It's a little like half thing, but it's got a little adapter. You just take it out. I had a 2242 in this here. I had a 2280 in this before. Actually, I had two. I had a 2 terabyte over here. I took this out because it wasn't big enough. I put in a 2 terabyte over there, and I had a 4 terabyte over there. The fans are pretty clean. A little bit of dust in there, and I've done a lot of video editing on this, but yeah, I keep a pretty clean house around here. You also get a massive battery, 85 watt-hour battery in this laptop. Isn't that just fantastic? Decent speakers too. They're the kind of higher wattage speakers. They're not the full-size ones you get in like a Yoga 9i, which are just like massive boomers, but these sound good. You'll see when we get to the audio section. It's pretty good. Better than your generic business laptops by a mile. Upgradable Wi-Fi is also nice here too. Then you get this really robust cooling solution. Again, this is just an 8845HS, right? Reasonably thick heat pipes. I don't know if you can see that. It's hard to sometimes see. Thicker heat pipes than the G14 from Asus. This thing runs cooler than an Asus G14, which is like 3 times the price. Isn't that funny? You get dual fans here, nice dense fins there, and they run. There's no annoying sounds, and they run relatively quiet, even during heavy video editing. Again, I've done maybe a dozen or 2 dozen videos on this laptop. Just an APU there. There's no dedicated graphics on this model or anything like that. But the cooling is very robust for what it is. The only negative is the RAM is soldered, but 32 gigabytes, so whatever. Taking out the SODIMM, I guess they can get in dual NVMe. Once you get up to 32 gigabytes, I'm fine, right? That's going to be good for many years to come. To be honest, the laptop will probably wear out before that point. You know, you'll be using it for years and years and years and years and years. Eventually it'll wear out. So, I mean, you get 2 NVMe slots that you get over, you know, having SOTA memory, but you get 32 gigabyte options. So you'll be fine, right? And it doesn't have dedicated graphics. It's not like you're doing like heavy video game programming where you need, you know, 96 gigabytes of RAM on a laptop like this. It's not really what it's for. It's more for, you know, day-to-day drivers or people like me who are doing video editing. Okay, and here's a look at the inside of the laptop. You can see the keyboard here. It's kind of that Microsoft Surface style where it has like a little bit of a rubbery texture, I guess I'd call it. This is the Thinkbook, the Yogas, the IdeaPad 5 Pros. They're all kind of like the same keyboard, but sometimes they come with like a smoother texture like that. Sometimes they come with a rubber one. Then they have the chassis here. Really, really nice all metal chassis here. Speakers firing, you know, little speaker vent here, whatever. Nice big trackpad too. Nice sleek kind of package inside. Webcam up here with the slider. You know, nice clean, simple package. They're not supposed to be like, you know, ridiculous and have all kinds of, you know, accents on them. It's supposed to be a nice, clean, professional looking package. Let's have a quick look at the specs here. So we get the 8845HS, the best processor that's out right now, July 1st, July 2nd of 2024. The new AMD and Lenovo and Intel stuff's going to drop. So, you know, this in a month or two, this might be like the second best chip or the third best chip or whatever. But as it stands right now, it's the best chip on the market. Fantastic. Then you get here 32 gigabytes of RAM soldered, but it runs nice and fast, 7500 megahertz. Good for the GPU, iGPU. Weird SSD, no idea. Whatever, it runs fine though. Realtek Wi-Fi 6, nice, good Wi-Fi, whatever. And then you get the 780M graphics. Yes, I have gamed on this a lot, and it games well. Put it that way. This is an import from China, so it doesn't really have too much you know, software that comes with it. It has none, realistically. They just put a fresh Windows install because language and that. But you can get Vantage here, and you can do your updates through Vantage. I probably don't have any because I use this laptop all the time. So you come in here and you do your updates. It works totally fine, right? So let's have a look at the keyboard here. I mean, spoiler, it's going to be very similar to some of the other tests. It's going to be similar to some of the other laptops that I've used recently with basically the same keyboard, and I like them. So let's do a quick typing test. Yeah, so I mean, it's like a 10 out of 10, right? So the only keyboards that are really better would be like a Legion because they're slightly higher slightly higher, larger keycaps. But this thing has, you know, reasonably large keycaps, realistically. You know, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but they're relatively large for such a thin laptop, and there's tons of travel. Nice and snappy. You do get backlighting. Again, it's kind of the gray thing. It's not easy to see. That's low. All right, you can see it there. Right, you can see that there. It's perfect for nighttime, right? It's not going to like, not super bright with RGB, but it's enough to light up the keys. So, trackpad's fantastic. It's got this nice little cut metal here to give it a little bit of an accent. You can see there. If I get some reflectivity off it, it's just a simple little thing that makes it look nice and pretty. Nice click on it. Just really, really nice. Screen here is really something special, and that's one of the reasons I got sucked into this laptop. Besides, you know, the build quality, the performance, massive battery, good cooling, all that, whatever, you know, just a killer laptop. Look at the screen here. 1920, but the other way. So we get 3000 by 1920. It's like just shy of a 3.2K screen. It's above an 1800p screen. Isn't that crazy for a 14-inch laptop? This thing is very fine resolution. Interestingly, it doesn't really seem to kill the battery. This thing has crazy good battery life. So you get a very fine resolution. You also get, kill it over here, 120 hertz refresh rate. So it's super fine resolution. It's 120 hertz refresh rate, and it's 100% DCI-P, and it's bright. It's a bright screen. It's 100% DCI-P. This thing is absolutely a killer screen. But I retired an OLED screen laptop for this, a very similar OLED screen laptop for this, the Xiaoshen, the IdeaPad 5 Pro, which had a fantastic OLED screen. And it wasn't really much of a compromise because, yeah, I lost some blacks, right? But I gained not being glossy, and it's still such a nice screen. Like you can see here, that's 100% DCI-P red right there. You know, nice vivid reds here. We'll go to this little part here. Killer contrast on, the killer colors on that. Really, really, really vibrant reds there. Just an absolutely gorgeous screen. Turn off that light there. Kill off a little of these lights here so it's not so much washing it out. Just an absolutely killer screen and such minimal reflectivity. And because it's not an OLED, you don't have to worry about burn in or anything like that, which isn't the biggest issue these days, but still, you just use the laptop, right? So there are advantages to IPS. Everything doesn't have to be an OLED, especially when you get such a nice IPS screen as this, right? And we'll bring that down. Get the... I've used this at night. I can't really show it that well. Black uniformity is perfect. There's no bloom anywhere. I use that at night all the time. So this is probably the nicest IPS screen I've ever used, realistically. I mean, you could make it glossy, I guess, which would make the colors even more vibrant somehow, but I don't think it's a good idea on this laptop because this is like something that people would actually probably be using in very bright environments. And you get no gloss, no glare on this at all. Like, it's completely non-glare, but the colors are so freaking vibrant despite that. So, I mean, this is the nicest IPS screen I've ever used. Certainly it's loud. Right, around 80 or so, 82. Decent sound overall. Yeah, so really good sound. Like, obviously, it doesn't have that really low end bass that, you know, like a Yoga 9i or a G14 or something would have, where it's a ton of like really low end deep bass. But there still is bass. It's just, you know, not that really, really low end, and it's nice and clear throughout the whole track there. It's really, really, they're just nice speakers overall. Just okay. We're gonna do some Cinebench runs, not for scores, just for noise and temperatures, but we'll just get this booted up here. I'm in performance mode. You can see you can do function Q, balanced, silent, high performance, and that will change the amount of watts that go to the CPU basically. So it's something you might want to use. So this is performance. Okay, so we can see there it's dumping a ton of watts into the CPU, 65 watts in this thin little chassis. Looks like we are getting a little bit of heat there. Is it technically throttling though? I don't know. I don't think it's actually throttling yet. Yeah, it's not throttling. It's just getting really hot. But the fans are going max speed. Let's check the noise. So 50. So like a quiet gaming laptop. But it's not an annoying sound. There's no pitchy whine or anything like that. So, you know, it's not super annoying. You'll see, they'll just take a peek at the scores here. Like 16,000, that's the type of scores you'd get on this chip on like a gaming laptop. Because it has a 2-fan cooling system and it can dump 65 watts. A lot of times these thin notebooks only dump 30 watts or 35 peak. It's usually when you get into a 16-inch chassis where you can dump the full wattage, the full 65 watts. So that's going to give it a lot more performance here than some little thin variant of the same laptop, because it's able to dump more watts into it. But it obviously runs a little bit warmer. It's really nice when you're doing video editing to just get that overhead. You can drop it down to balance mode here. We'll see the core package drop down to 50 or so. Much quieter. Temperatures dropping down, fans spinning down. Most of the time you can do work on this thing, and honestly you can do it in silent mode, but even balance mode, and it's so much quieter. Wattage will drop down even more, probably around 20 or so sustained. Yeah, you can see that there. You can see that it's not even remotely warm anymore. Now, the 8845HS does scale. Like, obviously, you know, 20 watts versus 35 watts versus 60, 65 watts. There is a performance difference there. But these AMD GPUs, these AMD APUs do very well on lower watts. So it'll still perform, like you can see it, just a peak here, right? Like, this is... Silent mode's still going to get probably in the, like, you're still going to get in 5 digits, no problem on silent mode. So it really depends what you're trying to do. Just day-to-day stuff, honestly, just leave it in silent mode. Okay, we'll just do a quick here. We don't need to do a ton here. We know what the 8845HS is capable of, and that is a lot. So we're here, 60 watts on the system there. We're here in Baldur's Gate. We're at 1200p on medium. I just threw on quality FSR. You don't even need it in the indoor areas. You can see that we're at 60 FPS, right? These APUs are very capable. No, this is pulling twice the watts of what an ROG Ally or Legion Go can do. So that's good. Let's go like this and throw it down to balance. That'll give us more drop down in watts, 45. No drop in performance, right? So you don't need to be in performance mode. The scaling on these APUs is, it kind of does a curve and then it kind of levels off. So I usually game on balance because it doesn't make a difference. Those extra 15 watts don't really do anything. Then you can throw it down to silent here and you'll still get relatively good performance. We'll go like that there, right? 23 watts. We're still at 55, right? So you can pretty much game in most games with this thing on silent with the fans not really going. 30 watts is around where those handhelds run, and this has a pretty robust cooling system in comparison. So, the fans barely need to do anything. Just kind of slightly move some air out and you're going to be fine. If you're playing very demanding 2024 titles, on higher settings, you may need to throw it up into balanced mode, for example, just to get those extra watts. But you can see here, it's going to run incredibly well here, right? This is an indoor area, so it's not the most demanding area of the game, but this game is super hard to run. That's why I do my tests on these APUs in Baldur's Gate, because it really does slam the CPU and the GPU and gives you a good idea of kind of a worst case scenario. Right, let's just eat her in there. Bye. And then if we'll go to just an outdoor area, we'll just kind of go and get an idea of what it will be like outdoors. We'll go to the most demanding area in the game, I guess, by far, and kind of get an idea there. Okay, and here's a look at Baldur's Gate itself, like the city of Baldur's Gate. You're going to see it's going to drop down a bit here, so we're going to have to throw up the performance mode probably, at least not in silent. Right, and now you're gonna get those little drop downs there as it loads in, but usually it does stabilize. This is the most demanding area in the game by far, just massively more demanding than other areas in the game. Typically in here you're going to want to throw in a little bit more scaling, or you can turn it down to low, just whatever. We're only on quality, right? So we can throw it on balanced, or probably balanced will be fine, to be honest. Just in the city of Baldur's Gate, it's just so hard to run. Right, and now you can see we're stable. Those low, like the average is fine, 40 or so. And then the lows have come up here. So this is the most demanding area in the game. So if you can run it here, you're going to be singing throughout the vast majority of the game.
So what do I think of the laptop? Well, let's go over the pros first. All-day battery life. You're going to get 12 to 20 hours on idle. You're going to be burning around 4 watts or so, sometimes even 3.5 watts on idle, which is very good at 100% brightness. And you're still going to get around 8 to 12 hours on YouTube at 1080p 60. Partially due to how efficient the system is, partially due to the fact that it has a gigantic 84 watt-hour battery. You're also going to get incredibly good CPU and GPU performance. That 8845H HS processor is incredibly performant in CPU tasks, and the iGPU is best in class as of right now. You're going to get a killer screen on it, 14.5-inch, 100% DCIP, 120 Hz refresh rate. Absolutely killer screen on this laptop. You get ports galore on this laptop, no shortage, despite the fact that it's 14-inch. It's a very robust design and it has a great keyboard and trackpad. And then if you're talking about what the negatives are, well, you can't buy it. At least not in the West unless you're willing to import it. So that's going to be a huge negative. So my takeaway is, Lenovo, bring this laptop to the West. It will sell. It's outstanding and we deserve it.